And welcome back, YouTube. And this time around, we are in from the depths. Yes, I stopped being lazy. Nah, I'm not. It's just that never gonna happen. But it is well, slightly bit different. It's a build video. Yay! Something that well, I haven't done in a while, and more of a while than I hope to. They do take a while, these build videos, for me at least. I mean, it takes me hours to actually build a ship and record it, and then you have to edit it on top. It's slightly bit off. But, you know, it's a build video because I'm building here a new mini BB. So nothing super new, no, you know, build up of a new submarine, which I will actually have to do at some point because the submarine that we're currently having in the campaign is horrible. But this battleship, or well, miniature battleship, more or less, it's more of my style. I mean, it's not the the block brick design that I tried to have kind of a usage with the rest of it. Fleet, that I found them just, you know, aesthetically problematic more than anything else. So this is like literally my own style of ship that I prefer, and as the end result, you know, I could go and redesign the other vessels, but that's really annoying. So yeah, why not build a completely new ship? Make it bigger, better, everything at once, nothing at all. And I think it's turning out fairly well. Do take note, there's gonna be more than one episode of building, because as I said, it takes me ages to build anything. A new pair of brains may help with that, but I have my doubts. Well, I mean, it just takes me 4 hours to build something, so here you go, a build video. Yeah, as my own style of building, it's well, more like a proper ship, you could say, you know, with that long nose and well, long nose, actually having shape at the front that allows the ship to cut better through the water, and some other stuff, of course. It looks more like a proper ship. That's something that, well, humans here on Earth would build. A lot of similarity to what the Seal Striders would build. Yes, that's the closest faction I can think of that would build anything like this. And it's coming along fairly well, actually. It's 9 turret, oh my god. 9 guns in 3 turrets design, so the guns are not the biggest, they're 380 millimeters. And the ship is coming currently at weight of somewhere about 27,000 in volume, which I'm not that keen on. Simply because, I mean, Season 1 ships were actually Vehicle 30. It had 8 guns in 2 turrets, and it was 27,000 in volume as well. Just that Vehicle 30 had 456mm guns, while this one has 380mm guns. So I'm kind of giving a thought that the next build most likely gonna be a battleship with railguns rather than conventional firepower like this one is. I mean, sure, the Vehicle 30 had a quad turrets, and those do actually take pretty much similar amount of space as the triple turrets, while at the same time I only had 2 of them, so that's quite a lot of space saving right there. Maybe that was kind of what caused them to be that small in comparison. Well, comparison to their firepower. I mean, the same goes with the Vehicle 20. That thing had less than 15,000 in volume, and it was carrying 402mm guns. Yeah, it only had 4 of them in 2 turrets, but still, you know, that's pretty serious big gun for not that big of a ship. I mean, 402mm, that's not bad at all. And I mean, this ship has less smaller guns than that thing had, and well, I mean, it has 9 of them compared to only 4 on the vehicle 20. But I am kind of thinking that maybe that style of building is actually in fact better, as trying to get the rear turrets. The rear turrets do take quite a lot of extra space, methinks. It also extends the ship lengthwise by quite a bit. I mean, this ship is at 150 meters long, so 150. That's actually fairly sizable for the game. I mean, the real ships in real life, they're 230 meters or something. I mean, Bismarck was 250 meters, and it had pretty much the same caliber guns, and actually less of them. It had 18 full turrets, so 2 per turret, and there were 2 front to back. But I mean, real life ships kinda hard to compare to what's in the game, because in the game you don't really need a lot of stuff that was on real ships, like, you know, crew quarters and deck spacing and stuff like that. You don't need any of it, so yeah, not really something that you would be going for either. It's completely pointless, in my opinion. I mean, as I think I said it once, you could kind of go for it, and it would kind of work just fine because the size of the ship would be so humongous. I mean, something like a Bismarck would easily be 50,000 in volume or something like that. So even though you have very small guns, there would be, you know, deep thick inside all the armor and stuff like that, so that could be fairly well protected. And it would also be kind of interesting to see, if nothing else, as a historical build, even though a very, very long build. I mean, that the size of the vessel is, it was a big ship. I don't know, I mean, I would take ages with it. If I start the work today, I might end up by the end of 2022 or something like that. So, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna be going for it. I'm pretty sure somebody did, and I'm pretty sure there is some video on YouTube, so it would be interesting to see. I'm not gonna go scroll for it, though. But yeah, this ship, pretty much, it's gonna be relatively sizable. I mean, 27,000 in volume, it's not small. I did expect it to be slightly smaller, somewhere about 20 to 23,000. That would be ideal, but well, you can't have everything, can you? Engine power currently is somewhere about 60,000, which is it's gonna be okay. I mean, the size of the ship and everything, I think it's gonna be just fine enough. Did put some electrical batteries, not in this video. They're gonna be actually 2 episodes. Did I already say that? I'm not sure. But it's gonna be 2 episodes of building, and of course then showing off how the end result gonna look like, which is it's as I said before, it takes me a while to build anything. Yeah, but as you can see, the style of building, it's pretty much the same. It's first place, you know, the guns, and then check the front, and then build the engines at the back, well, middle, and then pretty much check the back end of turrets and stuff like that, and place secondaries around the engines, and well, I'm building fuel tanks here around the engines up as well, but which I usually don't do. Well, don't do. I actually do this a lot. It's something that doesn't really hurt the ship all that much. You would expect that you're gonna get punished more for putting fuel tanks right next to the engines, but it's not that much of a problem really, to have them like that. So I don't know if it's a good design choice, most likely not, but it works, so I did kind of use it quite a lot. In Season 1 ships, like for example, had all their fuel tanks around their engines, and at the front and at the back, because, well, that's what they do. Well, not they do, that's how I build them. Language. There is some odd bird chirping outside. I'm most likely the mic not gonna pick it up, so that's okay. But yeah, it's pretty much my style of design more than anything else. So the ship does look closer to the Season 1 vessels than it looks to the current season vessels. And I think I'm gonna, of course, build some extra ships that gonna get along with this one. The new battleship will most likely will be 100%. It's gonna be more of this style than it was from the current season, because as I said before, the current season ships more of a something that I tried to build and kind of failed at it. They turned out to be looking like big Lego bricks, and I mean, it does have something to do with colors on them as well. I mean, because strong colors with flat sides, they kind of do that, that it looks like, you know, a complete flat surface. And I use a lot of somewhat strong colors, you know, blue, red, that does influence how their ship looks like. And I mean, the choice of colors could be better, but I don't think it's just that. It's also the point of fact that the ships are pretty much big Lego bricks. They're completely flat-sided, and that makes them look like not really being a ship at all. It's literally more like a standing fortress in the water than anything else. And it's something that I just have problems looking at. So yeah, more of my style of vessel be building past this point. And hopefully I will rebuild the submarine. Just have to get myself to do it, because I'm not really good at building submarines and they kind of get on my nerves. So gonna do it at some point. It's gonna be a struggle, but I'm gonna do it. But yeah, this one is, of course, it's the conventional weapon type. I actually wanted to build one with trying to get the railguns to work on this setup. So I'm gonna have to see how that gonna work. If the ship gets any smaller as the end result, I think I'm gonna go more with railguns than anything else. And the main battleship will most likely use the railguns. I think that the volume difference is worth it. It's definitely something that is worthwhile if you, I mean, if somebody, well, I mean, I'm gonna build it, so you're gonna see it in the video. I wanted to say, well, you can check the Season 1 ships, but I remember that I never posted any build videos of Season 1 ships, so it's not like you can see how the guns are constructed there, which would be will be a video. I'm guessing it's gonna be. It's simple that the railguns take less space, because, well, it's like a block or 2 blocks on the turret itself, but this translates that the entire ship then can scale down in size, especially in height, and the ships don't run as deep into the water, etc, etc, etc. So you have, you know, they have their drawbacks. Of course, you need batteries, which consume a ton of power. The railguns do consume a lot of power, and the end result is you need more powerful engines, more fuel tanks, batteries. They're pretty heavy up as well, but that decrease in volume does allow you to bring more ships into the game, even though they're more expensive. I think I already been explaining this in other videos, but volume does matter, material not really. By the end of the game, you actually are having so much material available that you really don't care if something costs you 300,000 or 600,000. But, you know, volume does matter, because having a 30,000 in volume ship in the game or having 25,000 volume ship, it does make a difference. A 30,000 volume ship will be the only thing you're gonna be able to spawn in most cases, while a 25,000, well, you may get another ship that's gonna be, you know, 5,000-6,000 in volume, and that means 2 ships versus 1, and it is, in my opinion, a valid difference that does changes things. And yes, yet again, I'm putting down the propulsion, active propulsion, to keep the ship stable. I do that with every single ship, I must say. It's something that I do because I want my ships to be stable. Even if they are stable in the water, I usually don't build them to be stable in the water. I mean, there are ways to build stable ships, you know, like you build the center of the ship somewhat of like a square, and that square then provides you with the buoyancy. But when you go to the front of the ship, you can build it in a V-shaped form. That means it has more buoyancy at the top and less at the bottom. And at the back end, of course, you can go with the dove's tail, which yet again does the same thing. So when the ship tries to lean itself, it dips those front back ends into the water, and they provide buoyancy upward, and because they're high on the ship, that actually stabilizes the ship back again. So it actually provides quite a lot of stability to the vessel in that way. Of course, that type of ship is still gonna be running relatively deep. And of course, that's not the only way to stabilize a ship. I mean, it's width to the depth and the buoyancy factor that you have to kind of compensate. If you check them carefully, you can get a ship to be relatively stable. And then, of course, it's the best way of making a ship stable is to simply have your mass underneath your buoyancy point. If you go into a build menu and you press that button that shows you where the points are, if you get your mass underneath your buoyancy, that means that that ship gonna be 100% stable all the times. And even if it gets overturned by something like ramming, it will stabilize itself. Which is, of course, a great thing to have on a ship. The problem is that type of ship gonna be relative big, relative heavy, and it's gonna run very, very deep into the water. It also gonna have, you know, a lot of heavy stuff at the bottom and a lot of light stuff at the top, which could work. I mean, if you build like a survivability ship that does have some firepower, you know, like my turrets fire every 2 seconds. If I would drop that to maybe every 6 to 8 seconds, the firepower on the ship, yes, would be much worse, but I could have, you know, half the autoloaders, and that means that I would only need the bottom half of autoloaders, so I would only have to armor that part over a bit heavier with heavy armor, while the top section, you know, that extends out of the ship would be completely unprotected, and it wouldn't really need much of any protection anyway, because there is nothing that could explode there. So it would be a fairly well protected ship, but the firepower would be lackluster, and as the end result, I wouldn't like to build a ship like that. But it would have, you know, very heavy bottom, very light top, and that's something that you could go for if you would wanna. I don't know how well they would actually work in the game, because firepower, you know, shape charge ammunition does have its power on stuff, so a lot of shells out of your ship being fired, it's usually a good thing, not a bad one. Especially when it comes down to hitting, you know, faster targets. The amount of shells you can fire, it's important. It is. I mean, it's kind of hard to get that balance right. And I don't know, if you don't fire like every 2 seconds or so, I think you're kind of wasting even the biggest guns. It's a waste that if they don't fire fast enough. I mean, you're gonna have way less use of them. Especially with the way that the AI is kind of silly and doesn't actually shoot at stuff that you want it to shoot at. You know, you want it to shoot at weapons, turrets, but the AI is constantly going for ammo boxes or propulsion sections, and oh, that's so annoying. So you just want to fire just as many shells as the ships can fire, just to negate some of these drawbacks. They should seriously think about fixing the AI to be more controllable at what you want your ship to shoot at, rather than having to manually control them all the time just so that they don't do something silly. No. But yeah, well, I could pretty much cue on elevator music at this point, but talking. So yeah, this ship is pretty much the style of Season 1, but having the guns of Season... now that's free? Yes, it's free. And of course there are things to fix on it. I mean, as I said, this is the episode 1. The episode 2 gonna be some testing up as well. And of course, mount screw-ups that I made during building, because you always gonna do screw-ups. You always have to check, you know, where is that thing that you done wrong. You don't check it over, you're gonna regret it later on. At least I will. I mean, because I'm not that seeing in advance, and I don't pay that much attention to details that are important, and in the end it just comes down to, well, I get, oh, this doesn't work. So do a lot of testing on the ships is usually a good idea. And I do way too much testing. It's, well, way too much. I want to test it against pretty much anything that the ship may potentially face, and the end result, I spent 6 hours in a designer just, you know, flipping ships in and seeing them blow up, and then another one and another one and another one, you know, 12 hours later, and yay, okay, it's working somewhat. And then I found one enemy that, you know, negates some of the future of the ship, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to fix it, and I start redesigning half the weaponry. Or something like that. It always happens. Near always. I have no doubts that I'm gonna find a problem with the ship up as well, so that's gonna be fun. Well, it's gonna extend the length of this videos by a fair amount, I'm guessing, but at least I end up with something of ships that are capable for fighting and not blow up instantly. Oh, to which I figure out what actually went wrong with the Mini BB. It actually got hit in the previous episode of the season. It actually got hit by the MP right on top of the turret, and because the turret had straight down to connection to the base part, it of course dislodged the entire turret. So I did fix that issue with that by simply placing surge protectors on the connection piece, and well, that works. Hey. But yeah, it wasn't shells that got through the shields, it was the missiles. Which does indicate, yes, the ship does have a lackluster laser munition defense, because the laser munition defense couldn't fire forward. You see, mistakes like that. Didn't test it enough. I mean, I was testing it like against Deepwater Guard and Onyx Watch ships. I thought those would be the first 2 enemies that I'm gonna go against. But then I decided on the White Flares because they're a bit more of a challenge, and it kinda kicked me in the nuts. You know, simply not tested ships enough. You know, especially against the MP. I often will forget the MP protection. It's something that I need to stop doing. The EMP is actually quite heavy in the game. I think most of the factions use EMP quite a lot. I mean, the Onyx Watch does not. It doesn't use missiles to much of any extent at all, and the Cram Cannons only fire HE. Well, HE, AP, APHE. So that's their thing. The Deep Water Guard also, they mostly use fragmentation or explosives, so they're not a problem there. But with the White Flares, you get EMP. The Lightning Hoods are using quite a lot of EMP. The Steel Striders, I'm not really sure if they're using. No, they are. They're using, just not to an extent like other factions. Then the Twin Guard use a lot of EMP. I guarantee you that one. And of course, the End faction, the Great Talents. It's not the Great Talents. It's, oh, I forgot now what their name is. The faction that is the most hated of in the entire game, because it just uses those really fast ships that are really hard to hit. A lot of them. So they use a lot of EMP as well. I mean, in their missiles. Their guns, I'm not completely sure. I'm not sure for them actually using that any of the faction uses EMP on the guns. I do know they use them as a part of their missile systems, but guns? Not sure about it. I do know that a couple of enemies are using disruptors shells, but even they're not that much of a problem. Or at least I don't think they're that much of a problem. As they are advanced cannons, and they're actually pretty small guns up as well. They're more like secondaries or something, and they don't really do all that much damage to the ship itself. They can be problematic from time to time, but in general, there are very few of them, well, very few enemies that use the disruptors, and they're not prevalent in the game at all. And of course, the secondary armament on this ship pretty much consists of 6 destroyer type guns, the 121mm cannons, 3 on each side, and they are like superpositioned one on top of another, so they can fire one across, which will help if the ship goes straight forward, which does happen in this game a lot. A bit too much, I mean, for my liking. But it does mean that they will be able to fire one on top of another, and therefore assist our main firepower of, well, which if the ship goes straight forward, that would be 6 of the 380mm guns. So yeah, I think it's gonna work just fine. Definitely, the decks on some parts are a bit thick. I think that the deck is somewhere like 3 blocks thick around the second turret on there. It's a bit too much, but I went more for trying to get some aesthetic angles on them rather than anything else. Pretty much building the ship like having a slightly bit of a slope, with the back end being like a block higher than the front ends are, so that it has slightly bit of a shape, more toward the back than toward the front. Well, the ship goes, you know, in a slope up toward the back end, and I think it ended up looking fairly nice. And yeah, the secondary turrets there have a bit of an issue of actually turning, because they actually have restrictions on them that were placed from the DDs, because, well, these are the copies of the DDs, and of course at some point I'm gonna fix it. At some point. Until then, they're gonna keep on doing that. But yeah, I went with this kind of slightly bit of a slope back there on the ship, and it ended up looking fairly well. I mean, the backhand being slightly bit higher, you don't even notice it when the ship is actually in the water, or at least I don't. Kind of a funny one. It's pretty much somewhat more of a visual thing, but I kind of like this ship as far as it looks so far. Could be better, but that would most likely take me way more time. And I'm most likely gonna have to slightly extend the sides there to get slightly bit extra protection for these secondaries, because I'm having an odd feeling of them getting blown all the time. Oh, they will get blown. Just it's something that I don't think we can completely prevent. Them being on the sides like this, they're gonna get shot, they're gonna blow. One layer of armor, well, 2 layers of armor that they're currently having, it's simply not gonna hold out too much of anything, especially not against something like shape charge munition, which goes through like 50 blocks or something. That things are ridiculous. But otherwise, I think it has a fair amount of protection around it, even though it's not like as good protection than it is on other season type ships, because a lot of others have like gaps in between the hull and the guns. This one doesn't have anything of that sort. But the armor on the turrets themselves, and of course the, what is it already called? ERA, yes. That is on the turrets. I think it's gonna protect the turrets just fine, especially with the hull around the turrets being 3 blocks thick with heavy armor as the last layer. So that's around. Well, that's pretty. It's gonna work against anything but shape charge munition from anything large bore guns. But it's not the most protected vessel. That's for sure. If this would go into a full protection, I think we're gonna end up with a ship that's like 40,000 in volume or so. That would be too much. You start, you know, it's the hull actually is the biggest space on the ship, and you increase the size of the hull, you put more layers onto it, you go instantly from, you know, 15,000 to 20,000 to 30,000, and suddenly you end up with a 50,000 volume monster that doesn't have much of anything else going for it beside its size. And that's something I'm trying to avoid, and it's also something that anybody should try to avoid. I mean, you want to build in season 1, I think I built really good ships, considering just because of that. They were relatively small in volume, but they had pretty good firepower. Here, building it more human-esque like, as it turns out, not the best choice. Well, not the best choice. It's not the best choice when it comes down to volume firepower comparison, or at least I don't think it does that. Anyhow, this is as far as we gotten in this episode, or well, build episode up so far, and well, it looks fairly well so far, but yeah, that's gonna be the end, so see ya.